What's up? What's up? Welcome back. Talking Nutrition 34 today. We've got Christine doing. So recently, Christine and I talked and we thought it could be cool to kind of share more about our clients, right? Like that's what we work with. Those are the people we really see like true growth with. And it's just so cool to share their stories and kind of show you as well, or, tell you, the listener, kind of how people go through the transformations. You'll see, I think, too, like the stuff that we're going to talk about today, how common that really is and how these common struggles like often just come back, to so many people. So welcome, Linn. What's up?
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So Linn and I have been working together for just about 16 months, I think it is.
Is it that long?
That's good. It's been a while, which also means that we've been able to create a lot of growth. So let's just start there, because usually if you really want to change shit, like it's going to take a little bit of time, But yeah, Linn is going to share a little bit about her, past diet history, things she struggled with, then also kind of how it went through her weight loss journey, recent reverse diet that we're kind of like, well, we're actually at maintenance now. So we're just about done with that reverse. We're still increasing. Wins like just that photo comparison that you did, right? So the photos that you took, how long was that ago again? Like a year and a half or longer?
I think that was right before Christmas, I think.
Yeah, true. So we'll talk about that, and then your win about like the vacation, like how much of a difference that is now, right?
Yeah.
I was laughing yesterday because you posted a story where you had donuts and you brought them to work. So tell us about that. Like, how did your colleagues respond? Like,
it all started with one of my colleagues had commented on we have something called Slack where we do all the communication, and someone posted something and her response was a donut. And that's how we started talking about donuts. And there was a new donut shop opening in Oslo. And one of the guys in my team, he talks about donuts like every week, I think. He loves donuts. So then I started saying, well, we never do a midday break at work. We're not very good at that. So let's go outside. The sun is shining. Let's get some air and donuts. And I actually managed to get the whole team with me, including our team leader. And he's very busy. So that was quite nice. So we went to have donuts. And we went back to the office to have a break together and eat the donuts. And it's never been so quiet in that kitchen before. And then when everyone was done, one of my colleagues was like, this was nice. Let's do it again on Tuesday.
Love that.
But that is, I was actually thinking about it yesterday that sort of old me would have been very stressed out about having a donut on a random work day. While new me was like, okay, I haven't had that much protein today. So I just need to make sure I get more protein in later today. And I just did some tweaking on my meals yesterday and that was good. So it's really fun to see how easy it is to have those little treats when you're on a maintenance phase. The 80-20 rule, as you call it.
Yeah, of course, it's great. But I think that's super cool, because sometimes we almost we just go through those moments where like, oh yeah, cool, eating donut now.
Yeah.
But if you compare it to where, you didn't stress about it, and if we talk about healthy relationship with food, what does that mean? That's what it is, It's like being okay with eating the donut and just enjoying it and be like, okay, well, it's just that one donut.
I think past me also probably would have thought, well, I had a donut, so I might as well have some fast food for dinner and chocolate later because I've ruined the day,
Yeah, because you told me this in the beginning too, you kind of had a bit of an all or nothing mindset, right?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up with a all or nothing mindset. I grew up in a very bad diet culture. And I think I actually did my first diet when I was about 15 or 16.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, even like my mom let me do that, but she didn't know any better. Like back then when I was growing up, I don't know if I remember like from like the early 2000s, all the pictures of like Kate Moss, where it's like nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. Like that's what I grew up with. Skinny was like carbs were dangerous. Skinny was what you wanted to be. So I've always had the all or nothing mindset. I've been the classical thinking that carbs alone can make me gain weight. So yeah, but then as I grew older, I learned more about food, training, diets, but I still had some issues with my habits. Of course, it was like embedded in me. So I have worked with coaches in the past, one very short round, but one longer, and there was nothing like wrong with the coach. But I think there was two things that made me sort of, because when I was working with her, I lost 8 kilos. And then I was like, okay, that's a lot. And I was like, okay, I'm happy now. Thanks, for the collaboration. Bye. Went on my own, went back to how I used to do things. And then I moved to Oslo during the end of the pandemic. So all the 8 kilos came back.
Yeah.
Plus one, so 9.
Plus one. Okay, there we go.
I'm such a
with
classic
interest.
example. Yeah, with interest.
I mean, yeah, but that's what I meant. Like that's the stuff that so many people do go through.
Yeah,
and that's why I wanted to share this stuff, because I think for the listener it can be almost like relieving in a way to hear like, okay, so I'm actually not the only one. Like there's other people going through this shit, and there's also other people who are overcoming this stuff.
Yeah, and I think it was like two main reasons. The one was, I wasn't really honest with her. To her, I was more like, oh, oopsie, I gained a little weight, so I need to like know how to train and eat. I didn't really tell her about what I was struggling with, which was fundamentally my habits, my way of thinking, my sleeping. I was having so much trouble with my sleep and my overall activity. Like I could be at the gym working really hard for 2 hours and then do absolutely nothing for the rest of the days. So I wasn't really honest with her about what I needed to work on. And the second thing is going from like a super strict diet to being 100% on my own wasn't really working for me either, which is why I worked for so long with you. And with you, I've been super honest. Like I feel like I've had like a couple of mini breakdowns in my check-ins and you've been like, I don't want to call you dramatic, but so yeah, it's been a totally different setting with you because I've been more honest with you about all my struggles, not just when it comes to eating and training, but like sleep, steps, stress management, everything. I feel like we've covered the whole area of lifestyle changes.
Yeah, that stuff is so important. And I think still people think, oh, I got to lose weight. It's like the workout or it's the food and it has to be super strict. Yeah. Then there's no talk about sleep. There's no talk about like stress and those kind of things, even though it all goes hand in hand, And then there's the emotional side of things and just things we struggle with. It's way more than just food. It's way more than just lifting weights. Like, sure, that's a big part of it, But even just, the thing you mentioned, like, we did have to work through things, And that's also what I want to, like, emphasize here is that it's not easy to go through that stuff. And like you said, you did have some check-ins where it's like, hey, I'm having a bit of a breakdown. And that's okay, because you're sharing that stuff. Yeah. And that's super important. And only then, when you're super honest, and in this case, of course, with me as your coach, but like for others too, even just with yourself, just being super honest with everything so that you can then work through it. Like that's probably one of the hardest things to do, I think.
I've seen lately you've been posting about that, like being honest with your own bullshit. Like it's not easy to do, but it kind of helps because you need to sort of be honest with yourself. And I think we've had some discussions about that as well. Like, why did this week turn out this way? And honestly, reflecting over that it's not cool. You don't want to sort of dig into it, but if you do it, it's easier to know what to do the next time.
Yeah.
Which is why, like earlier, if I had a bad week in forms of a lot of stress, maybe I wasn't able to prioritize my training as I normally would, or I got sick as well, I would feel very sorry for myself, and I would feel that, the week is ruined because I can't do it perfectly. So, why do it at all? And that would end up with me eating a lot of bad food throughout the week and have like binging episodes. But that doesn't happen anymore. Like now when I get sick, I'm like, oh, I can't train and I'm not feeling well, but I need to fuel my body so that it gets the nourishment it needs. And I still eat the same food that I would eat when I'm healthy. So that's a big change for me in my like fundamental habits of how I sort of do life now.
Yeah,
how
that's
I
great.
handle things. So yeah.
I think that's almost like the thing a lot of people also don't realize, where it's like, hey, you actually need to change. Like you as the individual, like, because you always hear like, oh, I'm going to do this diet, and then it's kind of like, I'm done, like the mistake you made in the past.
Yeah.
And then I'll go back to normal, like whatever that is, Like
normal isn't working.
Yeah,
Normal is really bad.
Actually, yeah, like there is no going back to that, It's not that you have to like remove all your favorite foods and you remove, the complete way of doing things in the past. But if you're in a spot where you don't enjoy being and shit needs to change, then you as an individual and just the whole way you do things, like that needs to change.
Yeah.
Which is sometimes maybe scary to think about in a way, or to go through, because that is not easy.
I think I told you this before, that I was hanging out with my dad when I got one of your videos for my check-in, because you respond on email on videos on the check-ins. Mm-hmm. And I was looking through the video when I was with my dad, and I was like, oh, it's so cool. I've been working with my coach now for like a year. And in my check-in this week, he said that, Linn, you're almost like a different person. And I remember my dad looked at me and he was like, you are a different person. It's like the change is huge. My mood and my like energy and my sort of happiness and everything. He's like, you are a different person. So I think it's important for people to know that, because I was the classical example of I started working with you. I was sort of tired of my bullshit. I wanted to do this properly this time. The timing was good because you reached out to me or something, and we had a call, and I just jumped onto it. And I remember in the beginning, I was very goal oriented. Like, I need to lose this amount of kilos. Like, I was really focused on the end, like where I wanted to go. But along the way of working with you, and this was a big struggle for me. I don't know if you remember this in the beginning, but like it was really hard for me to focus on the process instead of the end goal. Yeah. So now I'm more in the process. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the gym. I'm enjoying everything I'm learning about nutrition. Like the example from yesterday, where I see that I can actually go to this donut shop and just on a spree and just have a donut, and it doesn't ruin my day or my week. Or my next meal, for that matter. So, and I'm not even where I want to be at. Like when I reached out to you, I'm not where I want to be physically, because we're doing a new cut now in April, is the plan. But I'm still such a different person. So I think the biggest change for me, because I wasn't really big when I contacted you, like I wasn't a big person. I just had gained a little bit too much weight. So the biggest change in me is actually mentally and like my energy, and I'm smiling more. I'm happier. I'm like more like a bubbly person, like happy to hang out with my friends and do activities. So yeah, there's a big change physically as well. You can see it, like you talked about the pictures that I saw, but mentally, it's been a huge change.
Do you feel like that change, so the mental side, that's now going to allow you to actually reach that end goal and stay there also?
Yeah, because I'm enjoying my lifestyle.
Yeah.
I love my lifestyle, actually.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So, of course, if you do it, coaches usually say, like, do it in a sustainable way. And what that means for me is, like, even though I haven't lost all the body fat that I want to lose, I am still, like, probably more than double as happy now as I was a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
So, and I know that I still have a way to go, but I don't care. I know that we're going to do that in the end, and that time will come when it comes. And I'm just enjoying myself. Right now, I'm just enjoying what all the food is doing for me in the gym.
Yeah,
so
tell
it's
us about that. Because,
different.
Yeah, exactly. Because we did a cut, and actually, you know what? I want to mention this too. So for the listener, like, Linn isn't very tall. Like, how tall are you?
155 centimeters.
155. There you go.
So a meter and a half.
A meter and a half.
Give or take.
So, yeah, and we talked about this a few times. I remember that. And you even had a friend of yours ask you, hey, like, how many calories are you eating?
Yeah.
Which I thought was so cool. Like, you actually told her, like, hey, you know what? It doesn't matter, because those are my calories, and it actually doesn't say anything for you. But okay, like, for that reason, like, you're not very tall, right? 1.5 meters. Like, that means that we did have to cut on pretty low calories.
Yeah.
And which is unfortunate.
Yeah, it kind of sucks to be short sometimes. That actually, fun fact, Johan, that actually happened again yesterday. A colleague of mine asked me if I could share with her how I did my weight loss. And I was like the calories and stuff. And I was like, no.
Yeah. I think that's cool, because I even get that question sometimes on Instagram and stuff, Facebook, like, oh, how much, like, what are your macros?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter what my macros are, like you're taller than me or whatever, like less muscle, or, everyone's different,
Yeah.
So that's actually funny that they ask you, because sure, we had to go lower. We got a good amount of progress too. And then we just hit a spot where we were like, hey, we've been going for a little while. We lost body fat, we lost centimeters, weight, etc. But we did kind of notice, like, biofeedback was kind of like going down. We didn't feel that great anymore.
Yeah.
Plus, we have Christmas coming up and stuff. So we figured, hey, let's increase.
Yeah. I remember I was struggling to recover from the gym. I was really sore, like, all the time.
And that's really something we got to remember too. It's like, hey, sometimes we want to keep going because we have this goal. But then if we really notice, like, in life, daily life, it's starting to show up, and we're noticing just mood-wise how the workouts are, the recovery, those kind of things, like, plus Christmas again, let's bring you up before that and then have a break, which we do have to do, which I think still is, I will say, like, these days there's way more emphasis on maintenance, luckily, and more coaches are actually feeding their clients as well. But what I'm still seeing is like, hey, you sign up, okay, you want to lose weight? Okay, cool. These are your, weight loss calories. Boom, let's go. No context, like, no looking at, hey, were you at maintenance for a while before that? You know, how much have you been trying to diet? Because if that's been all the time, maybe let's first do a maintenance phase, you know? Okay. So we did the cut, then we brought you up, and we basically just finished bringing you up.
Yeah.
Like we're at maintenance, which took just about 2-ish months, 2.5.
Yeah, I think we started reversing the week before Christmas.
So.
Or no, I did like a diet break at maintenance during Christmas.
That's what
I think.
It was.
And then we started I think we started increasing with about 100 calories a week. And I think now we're down to like 10 grams of carbs a week to just like see how far we can push it.
Yeah, which is great.
So yeah, I've never done this before, like a slow reverse, and I'm actually loving it because one thing is like you said, you're sort of still able to be a little bit in a deficit while you're reversing because you're doing it so slowly as we have done, because we had the time for it now. We could do it. I had like months to go. But the other thing is, and I haven't told you this one yet, is I'm learning so much from changing my macros every week in my app, Chronometers, which we use. So I'm actually seeing now that even on the days when I are not able to stick to my planned meals, or, you know, I have to eat more out or whatever it is that sort of mix up my day in a way that I wasn't planning for, I'm still hitting my macros. Yeah. So I'm actually getting really, really good at knowing what to eat to sort of stay within my range of calories and also hit my target of proteins.
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I do think it's awesome because like you said, the slow reverse, like for the listener too, like you don't have to do that. Realistically, you could also jump back to maintenance, but we did want to lose more body fat. We had the time. We also hadn't really, so the cut was quite long too, or at least the total time spent dieting. So it was time for a break. Yeah. So if we have the opportunity, let's go slow and take our time. And now we're just adding stuff.
On my next cut, we have to get me straight up to maintenance, because on my next cut, we won't have that same time frame.
Yeah.
So that's also one of the reasons I wanted to do it now, was because I had the opportunity to do it. So it was perfect.
And I think it's very cool to hear that you're actually still learning from that. So we're now 16 months in and you're still progressing, you know?
Yeah.
So that's really cool too, because I think with macros too, I think we tend to overcomplicate it. And I think still most people don't get a chance to apply it correctly, which is not their fault. Usually it's just a lack of understanding, or, no one is showing them. But I think that's super cool to hear. So thanks for sharing that too. I mean, with me, but also the listener, hey, if you actually do put time and effort into this thing and you focus on your macros, you can actually learn so much from it. Yeah. It just becomes easier.
I understand that it's not for everyone. I know that some people find it triggering, or, whatever issue they have with it. Yeah. But if you don't want to do it just because, it feels like a lot of work, which, by the way, it's not. When you've done it for a while, it's like 5 minutes. But if you can do it, then do it, because as Johan mentioned in the intro, me sort of enjoying myself on vacation now is so much easier because I've been tracking so much and learning so much about what I put in my body. I am now able to go on vacation for a week or two without tracking anything and still maintain my weight and feel great and get enough fiber and feeling good. I had one vacation where I didn't track anything at all for a whole week, and I had gained 300 grams when I came back home. So, and that comes from tracking so much and sort of knowing what different combinations of food will do for my macros. So I could just pick out my meals with sight alone
Yeah,
on my
that's great.
vacation. I didn't have to track, and that's freedom for me. Like, because when you know that as well, you don't stress, because I still hear my friends or family say like, "Oh no, vacation coming up. I'm gonna gain so much weight. Oh well, I'll have to do a boot camp when I get home. Ha ha." And I'm like, "Well, that's not very fun, is it?" So yeah.
And not sustainable either.
No, and then you have to do like the really hard diet 14 days before you go, because you have to look good in your bikinis. And then, it's just, I've been there
Yeah.
myself, and it's so exhausting.
Yeah.
It's not a very, very great lifestyle.
Yeah, it's a different mindset. It's like, instead of doing this as a lifestyle thing where you're actually changing shit so that you can stay lean
Yeah.
and get the results and stuff, but also have a good relationship with food.
Yeah.
Like, that's so much different compared to like, I'm just gonna, suffer for 14 days and then I'm done. Then I'm lean for my trip. And guess
Yeah.
what? It's gonna bounce back up in no time,
Yeah.
It's we have to move away from that just as a society, we gotta stop doing that shit. Like that's why the challenge is like, I mean, we do contests as well in the community, but like, it's not like a fat loss challenge where it's like, let's see who can lose the most weight and stuff,
Yeah.
It's
I mean, the articles in the newspapers in Norway, like around Christmas times, is horrible.
it's the worst.
Oh.
Yeah. Still.
But I mean, I used to like read that stuff and like eat it up when I was younger, because I thought that was true. That's good. That's a good diet. I will lose 5 kilos in 3 days. That's awesome. Let's do it.
Yeah, like who are we kidding? Like
Yeah.
it's wild, but yeah, unfortunately, that's the stuff that sells. That's what people fall for,
Yeah.
Did you see the one around Christmas that was like the Knackebrot diet or something?
Yeah.
And where just like everything you eat is dead
Yeah.
for like a week or something.
It
I
is
don't know
one
what it
thing
was,
too. Yeah. But I think I've done all of it. Like, have you ever heard of like the hospital diet? Like the diet they put people on before they go into to operate on them, and they have to eat like only vegetables for 7 days or something, and you just lose like a lot of weight in 7 days.
A lot of water.
It's crazy.
No, I actually haven't. Like, I'm just looking it up now. Like, what is the hospital diet? No, but like, even like, because even here too, I've had people tell me like, yeah, I went to the doctor, and the doctor told me I just need to lose weight. I was like, okay, cool, yeah, sure. People know they need to lose weight if they want to, but like how, So they ask like, hey, okay, but what do I do? How should I lose the weight? How do I lose 10 kilos, whatever? Yeah, I just eat 800 calories per day. It's like 800 calories. And I've heard that multiple times, So it's not just like the one person. So there's actually people recommending multiple people to eat less than 1,000 calories. Which, are you going to lose weight? Yeah, of course. But you're literally starving yourself, But, like it's not going to work long term. Sometimes you have to go low, and we didn't go that low, by the way. But like, sometimes you have to go low on calories.
Oh, I'm a meter and a half. I don't eat that little.
Yeah, no, like there needs to be context, and it needs to be shown to people like, how do you actually do this? Because sure, even like, let's say even like someone would be put on an 800 calorie diet for whatever, like let's say they really have to lose weight like ASAP, and if it's in a controlled way, you know what, it could even be a way to do it. But then they still need to really make sure that that person is sticking to it, is able to control the way back up again, and only does that for a very short time. And that's not what happens. Because they go to their doctor or whoever, they see the magazine, they do the restrictive diet, they think, oh cool, 800 calories, let me try that. They go for 2-3 days, they hate it, and then the rest of the week is just no limits.
Yeah.
You regain it again, you start over.
I think maybe some of the challenge is that, like we talked about, I'm a very different person now. I've said this to you so many times. Like, I'm so much calmer. Like, I don't stress before Christmas. I don't stress before a holiday. I don't stress with reaching my end goal, which, by the way, probably when I've reached that goal, I'll probably have a new goal. So this is like it's not like I'm going to stop one day and then I'm done. Like, I want to live a healthy lifestyle for the rest of my life. But I think that to get there, to where I am at now, it was hard. It took commitment to you and the process and myself. Like you said, own up to your own bullshit. I had to work on my stress management. I had to work on my sleep, which, by the way, before I started working with you, I was like struggling to maybe get like 5 or 6 hours. And now I'm like doing 7 to 9 on a regular basis.
That's amazing.
Stress management. I mean, my resting heartbeat went from like in the 70 something to like 59. And I've also had full transparency. I had during my 16 months working with Johan, I had a longer break from coaching, a couple of months, because I actually had a sort of burnout, or whatever you want to call it. I was actually on sick leave from work. Because I had had a lot of things that had been happening in my life for many years. And I thought I sort of just reached the point where I sort of couldn't do it anymore. I needed a break from like work. And I was honest with Johan and I said, I can't do coaching now. I can't commit to tracking or filling out the check-in felt like too much for me at that point. Yeah. So I said to him, I need to break off this coaching from today, and I will reach out when I'm ready again. And I did. And that's, that was a year ago. No, a little under a year ago. Yeah. So there's a lot happening in this process. There's not only
100%.
Going to the gym a little bit more or eating more fruit. Like I've worked with everything to become who I am today when it comes to fitness and lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, thank you for sharing all this, because I mean, first of all,
yeah,
I mean, you're the first, client of mine who I get on the podcast. It's like, I also know that a lot of people wouldn't share the stuff. It wouldn't be comfortable enough. And actually, I asked you for this podcast and you were like, you know what, this idea makes me really uncomfortable. So yes, let's fucking do it. But like, I think it's so important to talk about this stuff. So thank you again. Like,
yeah.
I think, now to think about that, I think it was a little under a year ago, because it must have been, do you think it was around the summer last year? Like just before the summer,
May,
I think it was.
May, June. Yeah.
Yeah. Took a short break and then we picked it up again. But even just in that moment, just being completely honest and saying, hey, you know what, like right now, there's a lot going on, you're burned out, a lot of stuff with work and all that. You didn't let that get to you either. You, of course, it wasn't easy, but you still showed up for yourself and you worked through it. As difficult as that is.
I think that transparency, like I did ask for help, like my doctor. I asked for help with my doctor. I actually also reached out to a psychologist for the first time in my life. So I just had some sessions there just to work through some stuff. And I was honest with my closest friends and family, and also my boss. I didn't tell everyone at work why I was on sick leave, but I told my boss like I'm struggling a little bit, so I need a break to like stabilize again, basically. And I think because I was getting a lot of like physical symptoms on my sort of mental struggles. And I think the fact that I recognized that and went to the doctors and was honest with the people around me and you is what made me bounce back as soon as I did, like as fast as I did. Because I think if I had kept this to myself and kept pushing for another 6 months, I would have hit a wall and be one of those people that take it too far. And then you're like out of your job for like 6 to 12 months and like really just have because I feel like I was more like in a phase of symptoms of you're getting to a point of a proper burnout, but I did something before I reached that point. I was not happy. So yeah. And that's also back to the pictures you mentioned, Johan, that I sent you before Christmas. I took the first picture I took, that was January of 2022. No,
I
21. Yeah.
the first, I want to say like December 21.
Yeah, maybe December. Yeah.
I think.
So I took that photo, and I took the last photo of myself on my cut before we started the reverse, and just sort of put those two pictures together. I think I also had a couple of other pictures like in between, but I was comparing the first picture with my last picture before we started reversing. And I could immediately see like the changes on my body. Like you could see I have a lot less body fat. But the biggest change, which also, because I sent this photo to a lot of my friends and family, and I was like, wow, look what I've been through for like the last year. And that nobody commented on my body. Everybody commented on my face, because the girl in the first picture looked so like almost defeated. Like I was like my whole posture, the look in my eyes, everything. I looked so like defeated and sad and just unhappy. And in the last picture, I was like, I had a different posture and I was happier, and you could just see like there was so much more life in me in the last photo. So that was what I got most comments on, actually. Like you look so much happier.
Yeah,
like ready to kick ass.
Yeah, but like that's why I messaged you on Instagram too. Like I could really tell, even just now, like in the way you kind of like show up on social media and stuff. It's like just get excited to go. Like I get excited to go to the gym now because of your story kind of thing, Like, it's like, oh shit, I gotta get my shit together too. Like I gotta go. No, but really though, like I could tell. Like I've seen that change over the last couple of 16 months, I should say. And that's been so cool.
Yeah,
it's been super cool to see that. And now it's not
been
even like
really hard.
Yeah, also, but like the change now is to where in the beginning you probably didn't feel very confident in terms of like reaching your goals and kind of keeping it there. Now it's kind of like, hey, let me set new goals, and that next cut, it will be fine because we just know it will be.
Honestly, in the beginning, I wasn't feeling alive.
Right.
I was like, I just went through the days. Like I wasn't excited about anything, basically. That was what I was going to say. It was really hard, but it's been so rewarding to sort of see that I was able to sort of pick myself up from a very dark place and just do the work. And it was so hard, but I did the work. And now I'm at the point where sort of like my dad is like, oh, you're such a different person. You look so happy. Like, it's so great. I'm so happy to see who you are today. Like, you're doing so well. Because I mean, a lot of my family and friends knew like the things I've been going through the last couple of years. They know that I've been struggling with like my self-image and the weight, and like trying to get back to my old self, but not really getting there. And like when you've almost done a change, you go back to scratch kind of thing. Like, it's been a struggle for a couple of years. So I think they are really happy to see me actually making it now, because they see a bit of the old Linn again, the one
Yeah.
who is excited about life.
Wow. I mean, like that, like that's real change, you know, like it's this is way more than just a lower number on the scale or
Yeah.
centimeters or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
But I do see like a lot of people talk about you will not be a happier person because you lose 5 kilos. And I see their point. Like, no, you won't. But to be honest, for me, losing the body fat and sort of getting a more being more consistent in the gym is part of, like, it's not only mental health things or something like that. It is also because before I started working with you, if someone invited me to, let's say, a birthday party or a dinner out or something, I got really stressed because nothing in my closet would fit me anymore. No, like my pants were too tight, my tops didn't look well anymore because they were too stretched out. Oh, sorry, my phone is okay. Sorry.
No worries.
Like, none of my dresses would fit anymore. Like, it wasn't fun. I wasn't excited about getting dressed up and looking nice and going out. Like, I was hoping I would get sick so I didn't have to go because I wasn't enjoying. And I remember someone said to me, just buy new clothes. And I was like, I cannot change my entire wardrobe, because we were talking about my everyday clothes, my work clothes, my like outside activity clothes, everything was too tight. And I was like, that's not a solution. So yeah, you won't be happier when you lose 5 kilos, but all the things that you do to lose those 5 kilos will make you happier, because that's what made me happier. That's what I'm so happy now, even though I have 5 kilos left, is because I'm more consistent in the gym. I sleep better. My daily activity levels went from 5, 6, 7,000 steps a day to now an average of 10. I get more sunlight. I do more stress management. I nourish my body. I drink 2 liters of water every day. Like, everything I do to sort of lose that weight or that body fat is part of why I'm so much happier today.
100%. Which is super cool to hear, because like you're right. Because you, like, the actual number won't make you happy, but the whole process that comes with that, and the
Yeah.
things you need to go through, the thing, like the person you need to become to achieve that,
Yeah.
like that's what's going to make you happy. Because you literally become the person you want to be.
Yeah. I feel like when you start, when you're consistently lifting weights, like going to the gym, lifting heavy weights, you get stronger physically, of course. I did. But you also get stronger mentally, because you're building your confidence, and you're managing to do new stuff you didn't do before. Like, maybe I know a lot of girls are scared to sort of go into the weight section of the gym because they think that belongs to the boys. So imagine the boost of confidence you will have when you start doing that on a regular basis. Or maybe you were scared of heavy weights because you thought it would make you bulky, and then you understand that it's important to lift weights, and then you start lifting heavy weights, and you actually notice how strong you are. So yeah, it's all the things you do to reach that goal will for sure be part of making you a happier person, more confident.
About that. And even just showing up at the gym and just not worrying about that, like stepping into that weight section and just being cool with it, you know? Which I can imagine too, because I'm just having a look now at your file. Like, so basically since like January, we've increased by, what is it, like 400 calories almost? Just about 350?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just about like this week. We're at the same weight still.
Yeah.
But like, how has that felt? Like, have you noticed, I mean, you already kind of said it, but like the difference at the gym, like throughout that process? Because I actually want to go back just a little, because in the beginning of this reverse diet, you were not really that excited about it, right? Like you were not really, like you had to get used to it basically.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to do a short diet break and then go back to the deficit to lose, you know, because I was so close to my goal. And I remember talking to you about, can we plan for next year? Like, how should I do the next phases? And I gave you two, like plan A, plan B. And you called me and you were like, tell me about plan A and plan B. What are the reasons for the two plans? And I told you the reasons. And then you were like, so which plan should you do? I was like, I need to do plan B, which put me in a maintenance phase for much longer. So you basically just had me sort of reason out myself that, okay, I need a break. I was excited going into the reverse or maintenance phase in a way that I've always liked going to the gym. Like I've been training for years. So I was excited to get more food so that I could, because I was struggling to sort of increase my weights at that point. But I was very nervous about the weight because it can still be a little triggering for me with the weight. I'm learning in a much better way. Like now I try to view my weigh-ins as a data input for you. Like it doesn't matter for me, but it's important for my coach. So that's been a lot better, but it can still be a little triggering if it spikes too much in one day. Which it of course did. When we started reversing, my weight fluctuated a lot throughout the week, which gave me sort of, when it went up, I was like, oh no, we added too many calories. And when it went down again, I was like, oh, okay, we're good. Well, as you were like, but Linn, look at your average. It's the same. You know, you were again like calming me down, being like, it's like almost a straight line. So we're good.
Yeah.
So I needed to go back to focusing on the process again, like I did when I started my cut with you. And then I remember the first week you asked me to do progress photos after we started reversing, and I didn't want to do them because I was scared that I was going to see a big difference in like, cause during that week, I actually felt a big difference. It was a big difference, but to me, it felt like I had gained like a kilo or two. But you sort of talked me through it. I remember we were emailing back and forth and I did the photos anyway. And I could see like there was hardly any difference. Of course, I looked a bit leaner on my last photo of the cut, but there wasn't a big difference in the photos, which has actually made it easier for me to see my weight fluctuate these last couple of weeks because I'm not too worried now anymore because I know that the next photos I'm going to take probably also won't look that much different.
Yeah. And that's actually why I still push you to kind of do that, you know? And that's also, I mean, it's the same thing even just with the refers and increasing food and stuff. It is uncomfortable, especially if you've never done that before. But like doing it anyway, even though it's a little uncomfortable, to then see, hey, actually, no, you know what? It's actually okay. Like that's so important because, you know, otherwise we're just gonna like avoid stuff that we don't really like. And personally, I don't believe like that's the way to go about life, basically,
No.
because to go back to what you mentioned, like the posts that I've been doing a little bit more of the tweet kind of posts. The ones that are a little bit more harsh, they're basically almost like speaking to my old self in there.
Yeah.
Because I had to do a lot of reflection. I had to overcome a lot of shit, even the last couple of years, on a personal level. And I've been able to grow so much as a person because I'm like reflecting and addressing my weaknesses and still doing shit, even though it's uncomfortable. That I want to put that out there, kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
Which you now also did. You know, you did the reverse diet. You still took the photos. It was a little uncomfortable, but you did it anyway, and then you found out it was okay.
Yeah.
And then you still grow.
Yeah.
After 6 months, like you're still progressing.
Yeah, I've actually noticed, like, because I've been reversing now for a while, and I'm going on a vacation soon again. Not stressed out, luckily. I'm actually just excited to go on vacation for 2 weeks. And then you have Easter coming up, and then I know we are doing a new cut in April. But the funny thing is, reversing has been going so well. And I've sort of, like I told you, learned so much from that process as well. Because I've never done that before, not a slow reverse like we're doing now. And I've learned so much from the process, and it has given me so much in the gym. Maybe I should mention that I also started a new strength focusing or like muscle growth focusing gym program. And I'm really enjoying it. Like I'm getting stronger and I'm pushing harder, and I can like feel the muscles in my thighs, or like I can feel things happening with my body. So now I'm like, oh man, I wonder like how much. I wonder if I could like gain some muscle. Like I sort of lose focus on my next cut because I'm like, maybe I should like get bigger. So I mean, everything, like you learn from everything you do when it comes to nutrition and training. But I could really recommend like having a coach to back you up and help you with like different phases, because that's how you learn. If you just do a very quick diet, go back to normal, and that's it, then you probably wouldn't have gotten to know a lot about yourself or your habits or the way you eat throughout that process. Because that's what I did the first time. I did a diet for a while, done with that, and I gained the weight again. Because, I mean, my habits hadn't really changed at all, basically.
Yeah.
I just followed a plan, and when the plan was done, I didn't have a plan. So,
yeah. Do you think, I'm going to get close to the hour mark, so I do want to be respectful of your time as well. Do you think, so what do you think was harder, the actual cut, or then the process after, kind of like, or maybe during and after, where it's like more like the habit changing, the keeping it off part, the being okay with eating more, those kind of things?
I think they're equally hard, but in different ways.
Different. Okay.
Yeah, because on a cut, it's hard to stick to your macros and still live, sort of. It's like, I notice for me, I need to say a bit more no to stuff, because it's just like sitting at a party and don't touch any of the good food on the table because you're on a cut kind of thing. So the cut is harder because I feel like it sort of requires a certain amount of dedication for that phase. Like if you're doing a 12-week cut, you sort of need to focus on your cut for those 12 weeks. And of course, it's not fun to eat less food and don't have as many treats. Nobody likes that. I love treats, snacks. But the reverse is harder in a way that you sort of, that's when you really need to get comfortable with sort of your new lifestyle. that's when you need to learn to get away from the all or nothing approach, which was very classical for me. I was good throughout the week, then I binged throughout the weekend, and then I was back at scratch. Then I started again on Monday, and the same thing happened. So when you're doing the reverse and like trying to transition into maintenance, that's when you really get to put your new lifestyle at test. Like that's when you need to do the whole balanced eating, having, a donut or a glass of wine or whatever every now and then without thinking, okay, I had one, so I might as well have the whole box. And since it's Friday, I might as well do this for the rest of the weekend because I already ruined my week. So that's the hard part, because that's when I feel like the cut is like mentally hard, because you need to like be very not strict, or maybe strict in a way, like you need to sort of do what you say you're going to do. As in the reverse, it's mentally hard because you have to sort of, like you say, you have to own up to your own bullshit. That's when you need to put your new habits at test and, go to the gym 3 times a week, even though you don't want to, because that's what you do now. You need to go out and get the sunlight and do your walks because that's what you do now. You need to prep some of your meals so that you get enough good, healthy meals at work, for example, or your lunches, because that's what you do now. That's your new lifestyle. Like you take care of yourself and your body. Commit to it.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all this. I think it's super cool, and especially what you just said, like committing to that change and also accepting that in a way, like, hey, I do need to change as like an individual in the way I do things, and it's a lifestyle thing. If you really want to overcome your struggles, or demons, whatever you want to call them, and reach your goals and maintain that stuff too long term.
Yeah. And own up to it and like own your own process, even when people around you are going, oh, so you're like a fitness freak now. And you're like, no, not really, but I do want to make better choices. So
yeah, there you go.
Thanks, Karen.
No, again, like, thank you so much for sharing all this with us. And it's
Thanks
great to have you
me.
on. When are you going to Thailand? Is that in a week and a half, 2 weeks?
March 11th. Actually,
Nice.
We start flying on March 10th. So it's actually 2 weeks to the day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
You should probably not follow me on Instagram for a period of 14 days.
No, I probably will. I like following people's travels on Instagram. I've
traveling
in the past, and like it kind of like makes me feel like I'm not traveling a little bit too. But I'll be up here in cold Norway, at least for now. We'll go on a trip at some point. No, again, thank you so much. Also want to ask the listener for a quick favor. If you listen to this episode and you recognize a lot of stuff, right? The struggles, the things you are maybe currently going through, just know that there's more people who go through exactly that, and that there's more people who are actually able to overcome that. So that means that you too can actually do that. It's not going to be easy. Like we talked about with Linn today, like it's not easy to overcome your struggles and demons and go through that uncomfortable time. But you most definitely can do it. You just kind of like have to own it, like you said, Linn. and just stick to it, honestly, and just keep going. And that's maybe even the hardest part. Like, keep showing up, even if you have a shitty day or a shitty week or even month, Because even that summer, you actually said, hey, you know what? Like right now, I just have to work through this, but you still kept going. So I think that's super cool. So to the listener, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share a screenshot in your Instagram stories. It'd be much appreciated. And, reach out to us. Feel free to reach out to Linn, if you have any questions or, want to know, like, hey, how did you do that? Like, send her a message. Thank you, Linn. I'll talk to you in a couple of days anyway.
Yes.
On Monday for your check-in.
Yep.
And to the listener, we'll be back on Monday. I'll talk to you then.
Bye.